additions to the
I
agenda?
have two additions, one recreation, ice rink seasonal, and cable recording.
That'll be under your report. Anybody else?
No.
Brian?
Non-disclosure agreement with Charter.
Okay. I'll put that under legal. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, resident statements. We'll start out with George Spira.
Dominic Macero's going to go before me.
Okay, Damasaro.
Thank you. Dominic Macero from 4697 Jason Court. I've presented here to the board before in the last last 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago. I'm here to request very respectfully of the town board to move our site plan application for the Legacy Townhome Patio Home project forward tonight. I'm also available to speak when that comes up in old business this evening. I thought that I would just address the board first before other people do speak. 2 weeks ago, I did address the issues that were brought forth by the planning board concerning our review through their people. I believe I addressed all of the issues pretty satisfactorily at that time and provided information relative to those points that were brought out to the town board by the planning board. I'm available to answer any further questions relative to that. Some talk about the project and its scope. I do have renderings that I will put up again for the town board's review. The planning board has seen them. There's been some talk that this is a two-story type of a development. That's not the case. It is a single-story patio home, one-floor development plan, multifamily that we're requesting for the rezoning from R1 to R2 to correspond with the adjacent PUD development. We've addressed the issue on spot zoning. We feel that the project does not constitute a spot zoning by any stretch of the imagination. We do have and have researched a certain case law in New York State regarding that. We're here tonight to present any of that to you if you're interested in hearing about it. If not, that's fine too. We can leave that for a later date. We have addressed the issues of traffic. We've addressed the issues of proximity of the nearest R1 and the R2 combination, which we believe are irrelevant to the approval. We're just asking for a similar approval of our development, which already exists in the town of Lewiston itself. And with that, I'll be open for any questions that you may have relative to that. Again, I would respectfully request that our site plan application be moved forward to the next step this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Supervisor, would I understand that when this comes up on the agenda, that we can have some back and forth conversation with Mr. Massaro?
Yes. George Spira.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Members of the board, George Spira from Youngstown, New York, town of Porter. For those of you folks who don't know me, I was on the planning board of the town of Porter for 37 years. 20 years as a member and then 17 years as the chairman. So I've been very interested and followed planning for many, many years. And I think that Lewiston, the village of Lewiston and the town of Lewiston has done an amazing job the last 20 or 25 years in making sure that there's available homes for those people who have gotten to the point where they no longer want to live in a lodge home. They would like to downsize and live in either a condominium or a townhouse or now, hopefully, a patio home. So having been involved in planning for these many years and living in Youngstown Estates, I'm now the community development guy in Youngstown Estates and the fellow who deals with community issues. And we have a lot of folks who are getting near the 70s and 80s and 90-year-old age, and they're looking for a place where they can resettle. And obviously, Lewiston is a prime location. You folks have done everything. You've got the housing, you've got the the shopping, you've got the professional people, you've got all the people that us older folks need to have a good lifestyle. What we need is continuation of your forward advanced planning and homes that older folks can move into. Not that they have to be segregated for just older folks, but some of the smaller units like patio homes really meet that lifestyle and brings a pretty good quality of people into the town to continue shopping in your stores and taking whatever's needed for the lifestyle that they need to live in. So I think that the development that the Massaros and Keatings are proposing for Legacy Drive, the patio homes, is a smart move. It's proper planning, and it just continues on to the great planning that's gone on in the town of Lewiston. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Judy Clark?
Good evening. My name is
A little bit down here.
My name is Judy Clark. I'm a realtor for Great Lakes Real Estate, and I've actually been working with LMK, Mr. Massaro, for the last 2.5, almost 3 years, selling his condos. And I can only say that I'm actually going to reiterate what Mr. Sparrow said, but we do have a huge market for the baby boomers that want to downsize and not have the maintenance. And this location is so perfect because the residents can walk to the village, bike, or they're very close to all the amenities that they need. So I just wanted to say that Don and his family have been longtime Lewiston residents, and working with him with the condo buyers, he actually is hands-on with every purchaser, has a great rapport with each and every one of them. So that's it.
Thank you.
Actually, one other thing, I do have a list already of people that have called me for these patio homes. This is without any advertising, so I really think we need them.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bruce Andrews.
Bruce Andrews, principal broker of Great Lakes Real Estate, Lewiston here. Just kind of reinforce that I am in favor of the patio homes. I think it's a great location for them because you have condos on, you're surrounded by condos really, so it kind of fits in with the zoning, I think. Also, we have a huge need for housing like this. Right now, our inventory is very low. We have so many people looking for homes, and most of them are the baby boomers downsizing, looking for one-floor plans because they don't want to deal with stairs. And what we're having in the village right now, we have people fighting over single-family or one-story homes, ranch-style homes. They're actually fighting over bidding wars for these properties. They're selling in like 1 to 3 days. So we need stock, we need housing stock, and this would be a good fit for us. So I'm in favor of this project.
Thank you very much, Bruce. That's all who signed up. Would anybody else like to speak? Amy Wittrell?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I intended only to observe this meeting, but I have to say, I'm astonished that Mr. Spira would come before the town of Lewiston and offer economic development advice. He is the former Vice President of Operations at CWM and its predecessor, SCA. While I may agree we have a high concentration of an elderly population, I would also point out we would have more young families here if we hadn't for the last 25 years, courtesy of Mr. Spira and his former employee, had one of the last hazardous waste landfills in the United States. And I mean no disrespect to the Massaros, I'm making no pronouncements on the advantages or disadvantages of the project, and I certainly wouldn't want the board to disregard any of the comments made by those who come before you either way. But I would urge you not to place any professional expertise in what you heard from Mr. Spira. Thank you.
And is Jason Brick here? Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. Jason. Go ahead, your turn.
About,
Yes, about your issue, yeah.
okay, approximately 3 years ago, we did a water,
Closer to the mic.
Lift it up, you can lift it up.
approximately 3 years ago, we assisted the town in terms of a water problem on a residential home on Moore River Road. And we narrated the problem with the shut-off valve, we got that figured out with the town. But they told the homeowner they needed a new water service that's broken at the house. We replaced that section, turned the water on, there's still no water. The problem was on the town property at the other shut-off valve, which they didn't know at first, where it was located there. And the homeowner feels that the town's responsible paying the bill, well, my bill.
Okay, what I wanted to do, and we wanted to give you the opportunity to come in and talk, and I know Al, I want you to come in and sit down and talk over in the office with the water department and with you and kind of get all the background on it and a little bit more than we, here, that we can do here. But, I know Dan Zano was involved in that project, so I'd like Dan and you to come into the office and probably have one more board member, because we're limited to only 2 board members come in and kind of sort it out. So I would welcome that. So,
Jason, were you the man on site?
I wasn't one on site, yes.
okay.
I came the first day when the town was digging up in the lawn first, trying to shut off the valve, which is kind of screwy the way the house is laid out. The neighbor behind the house, his valve's in front of this house. So that's where it got a little confusing, because there's no true records of what goes where. So by the time they turned it off, they thought it wasn't going to be turned off. If they tried to turn it off, it wouldn't turn off. So they had called me in to see if I could do a possible freeze, so they could put a new valve on instead of shutting down all the big water, the main water coming in. We found out there was another valve that did shut off, so they shut this off, and then the homeowner said, well, they said, you gotta fix this water line. It happened to be on the wrong
It'd be best
side.
when you sit down with the supervisor and Mr. Zano.
Okay.
And work it out. I just wanted to know if you were the man on site.
Yes, yes.
I think that's the best way to handle it, because and that's what we wanted to do, but we definitely wanted to welcome you here to talk about it. So
Okay.
we'll set up an appointment in the next week or 2 and we'll go over it.
That's fine.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mhm. Would anybody else like to speak? Okay, now close the resident statements. Moving on to department head statements. I'm going to start with Chief Previtt.
Thank you. I spoke to some of the board members. For those of you who aren't aware, we had an issue. I had an issue with one of the vehicles. Fortunately, in our payroll, I had kind of an extraordinary or different type of year. We had 3 people at one point that were out on workman's comp and somebody else with maternity. So I have some excess for that we have as far as payroll to cover it. Or the other option is we could use H97 or whatever the board would prefer. But I have a vehicle that I cannot drive anymore. It's got a water pump issue. It would be close to about $1,500 to $2,000 to repair it. It's got 114,000 miles on it. I already have made minor repairs to it, enough to get it through. What I was trying to do is get it through. So I've got expected repairs that are going to come on top of that as well. So what I'm looking for is board approval to purchase another vehicle to replace that one in the interim. And that would put me on schedule as far as what we were looking to do in our plan that we had planned for the future of the scheduling for the vehicles and their replacement.
Could we leave that to the December 11th meeting to discuss?
Well, we can, and I talked to the chief. I know Councilman Morial talked to the chief. We already replaced 2 cars this year. One of them was a captain's car that has a longer life expectancy, probably, you said 6 years?
That'll be about 6 years, not
So-
a regular patrol
Right,
vehicle,
right.
so it doesn't help me in the patrol aspect.
Right.
The 2 cars that we're replacing each year are on the schedule. That replaces the patrol vehicles, and that is not, so that one will last like mine will. It's
Right.
a 2014, I think.
So this
It'll
would
last me
be,
another 3 years.
so this would be the second actual patrol car that's out patrolling the streets,
Correct,
taking the wear and tear.
correct.
Okay. Okay.
Councilman Bax is the liaison for that, he's already talked to the chief by phone, but it might be better for us to wait till the December 11th meeting and decide what the, sure, we're gonna go ahead and do this, but when do we wanna do it?
Right.
And how do we wanna do it?
Right.
Well, I would ask for, if that's possible then, because if I act now, the one car that I already have, it's gonna be probably 8 to 10 weeks before we even get anything. So regardless of how, if the board is willing to go ahead with this, then the invoice, we won't probably get an invoice till January anyway. So, I mean, you could decide how you want to do it in between, but the longer that I wait, it's going to push it into further in the year, and then that's going to upset that whole schedule that we're trying to get together. Because I'm going to be stuck with another 3 cars in 1 year again.
What year is it?
2014.
Okay. Councilman Moreno, this is kind of your expertise. I mean, I know how they get beaten, but you're how they get repaired.
Well, I went on a computer today and did check the timing chain, and he was right, that it's a $1,500 to $2,000 fix.
Yeah, they, unfortunately, the way that Ford made them, you
You
got
gotta
to rip apart the
Full
motor
motor, when you got
to get to it. So, I mean, we could repair it, but I'd hate to put $2,000 into a car we're getting rid of. It just doesn't make any sense. And I'm gonna have further costs with that because I replaced some of the coils, the wires and coils in it, and there's a certain amount of them. I only did what I needed to do to get through, so the rest of them are gonna go as well on that.
Yeah. How much?
It's got 114,000
Right.
miles on it.
And how, you told me over the phone, but the replacement car was about 28,000?
It's 28 something for state bid, and then 2 something for, so it'd be about 32 would cover it.
And
Because we have to transfer, we pay to transfer the equipment, we don't buy new equipment for the cars. Because we're buying the same type of vehicle, we can transfer what we have into the other vehicles without purchasing new equipment.
what do you think the value they would give us, what would we do, trade that in?
Yes.
What do they usually
For
give us?
one around the same price, I got, for around the same mileage, rather, the same year, I'm getting about 7,000 for it. But this one has problems. So I don't know whether it'll be the same. I expect it'll be probably around 5 to 7. I was surprised when they said 7 for the trade-in that we're giving. So I would guess probably around 5 to 7, I would hope.
So it's 32 minus the 5 to 7.
Yes. That's without the trade-in, yes.
We bought 2 cars this year already, this will be, or one.
We bought 2, but one's an
We bought 2,
administration car.
but one patrol vehicle, the other is the captain's car,
Okay.
which those get a lot less miles on them per year, so those, like mine, like my vehicle now that I have, the department vehicle will last 6 years. So that's not on the same schedule. That's gonna last probably at least 6 years, because they get a lot less wear and tear on one driver. And unfortunately, I have to spend a lot of time in the office, as does he, correcting stuff and doing administrative stuff, so they don't get nearly as many miles on
Well, how many patrol cars do we have now?
them. 8.
On the road patrol cars, not including your cars.
Not including the captain's or your car.
9 including all of them, that's all.
9, okay.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Okay. Now, Marty, I talked to you briefly about it, and, you know, we talked about the ongoing contract negotiations right now with the police department, and the fact that this is coming from payroll. Would you like to see it stay in payroll and take advantage of the H-97 for public safety? Or would you,
Well, I wasn't prepared, I didn't know this was gonna be the topic of discussion, so I haven't really thought through it, I've been working on other things. What I'm wondering about is the 2 cars that we have purchased, or that, because we just authorized you to buy a car through H-97.
Correct.
And that car, when is that car gonna come in?
That should be in probably by the end of December.
All right, is that a car that can replace this car for the time being instead of the one you were planning on?
No, that's the one where the rear end is going, and it's a matter of time. I'm hoping it makes it till we get rid of it, so that I get the trade-in value, because the rear end has to be replaced in that, which is about $1,500.
And what about the second car? Because wasn't there a second car that we were ordering that was from the budget? Or is that one already done?
No, that was already done earlier in the year. That was early part of the year.
So the two cars that are currently authorized for 2017, one was in the budget and the other one was from H97.
Partially from H97, I paid the rest of it through the stop DWI.
Okay.
There was $10,000 from my budget that went into that car.
All right. I would say that, I need to look at the fund balance that's in the B fund as well as, you know, what else we have coming out of H97 to really be able to tell you well
Where-
thought out.
Okay.
I would guess that probably, well, we need to talk about it.
Okay, well, we can talk about it tomorrow. And
Because there's, I can see two different thoughts that need to be,
Again, put it on the agenda for the 11th. So we can-
Okay.
what does that do for you between now and the 11th? I mean, if there, we
It's
have
just
other
gonna-
cars
it's
you
gonna-
can use,
It's gonna push it that much further back
right?
before I'm gonna get to do anything with it. It's gonna be, it's 8 to 10 weeks. This one is gonna end up being about, the one that we're getting to replace the car, the rear end's going, we're gonna be right at about 10 weeks. That it's taken us to, they haven't even built it yet. They're building it next week and it'll be probably 2 weeks after that. So we're looking at the end of December. So either way, it's gonna go into January anyway.
seeing that we still need to figure out, because we can approve it, but we still need to figure out how we're gonna pay for it. So I think I would agree with Councilman Guyby that we probably should put it on for the 11th, and then I could talk to you, we could come in and talk and figure out how we're gonna pay for it. Does anybody else have any?
You're not driving the other one with the bad water, that's out of service.
You can't drive.
Yeah, unless he fixes it, and then that would go ways.
I would start all the paperwork for it.
Yeah.
So that on the 12th.
Well, the paperwork isn't the issue. The paperwork we have is duplicate stuff. The time frame is letting him know, go ahead and order it. That's the time that gets eaten up in between.
Well, we've been moving money from one account to another account to balance everything out as we get close to the end of the year. I would just be more comfortable with another 2 weeks. And I know it puts the chief in a little bit of a bind, but if they rotate the cars a little bit, it is our down season, except for the Christmas walk coming up, that they work diligently on that. It's up to you guys. I'll go with you people, I'm sorry.
I can't see where 2 weeks makes that much difference.
You mean in waiting?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
unless you guys all think it does, but
The chief obviously does.
Well, it's just, the longer that car's down, the other cars take more of a beating.
Well, let me ask you this.
I've got the other people, and my thought was, and the only reason that I said that was, if it saves time, we know we're gonna do it anyway, we don't have to do, for the 11th, if we already know that it's good to go, then why not place the order on the 11th? You can decide wherever you wanna take it from, if the decision is that you wanna do it. Then it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't see how one affects the other, unless there's a discussion as to whether we wanna do this or not.
Yeah,
No.
no, I don't think, I think there's the realization that probably needs to be done. Can we approve a purchase without knowing where the money's coming from for 2 weeks?
I would wait for 2 weeks and make sure we know
Yeah.
we have the funds, where they're coming from, and make that part of
Yeah.
the approval.
Well, Chief, let me ask you this, do we put $1,500 into the car to get $7,000 for it? Or if we leave it like this, is the dealer gonna tell us that don't even run, we're gonna give you a $3,500 for it?
It runs.
Okay, but are you gonna even be able to drive it to the dealership? Or?
Yes. It's not to the point where it's gonna fail like in that trip, but I can't drive it for a week. So we
Oh,
look at that
exactly.
trip.
I just hate to dump money into something we're gonna rent.
I know,
Oh,
but
yeah, I agree.
you know, see where I'm coming from? You get-
Yeah,
We can call the sheriff's department and get the guys to push it, you know, like.
Just unload it to block from the dealer driving.
Strike
Runs
reserves,
fine.
pushing
Yeah.
it down the road.
No,
In previous board meetings and through the budget, we had said that the police car, and we did authorize that that wasn't a proper expenditure from H97 because it is public safety. So there are funds in the H97. The question is whether that's the best way to do it or to get it from. I could see authorizing it from H97 with the understanding that if we can find a better source of money for it, we can do that later, but that would be the best I would do, otherwise you gotta wait for 2 weeks.
Any thoughts on that, Ryan?
I'm sorry.
recommend the board wait the 2 weeks. I mean, I would just feel more comfortable knowing that the funds are accounted for, we know where they're coming from. I apologize, chief, I know you want to get it
That's
moving
okay.
as quickly as possible, but I think
I'll make it work somehow.
it will be best to act on this.
So we'll put it on the agenda for November 11th, correct?
Brian will let you use his car for the.
I don't know if the guys would be comfortable in a minivan.
He's way cooler than a minivan.
That's true. No flashing lights.
Yeah, the 11th. Okay, so we'll put it on for the 11th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tim? Master, nothing. Nothing at all.
Really?
The new lights, you don't want to talk about, you don't,
I'll answer any question you have for me, but
you don't want to talk about the new lights and the new room here, everything that was done? You brought to my attention when I came in how bright it was. Is it done? Is it completely done?
It's not completely done, but this room is done other than the lights behind you guys.
Okay,
Where are the cable outlets?
they're working on it. Okay.
Do you really want me to answer that one?
I know the answer already, I'm disappointed.
Deputy Supervisor Conrad, anything? Nothing? Bob, you're on the agenda. Jeff Ritter?
I'm on the agenda.
You're on the Dave Train? And he's going to a regular guy, never a good sign.
How are your lights, Dave? Is it nice and bright in there? Is it?
Okay, we already approved the salt shed.
Yes.
Now I need a geotechnical investigation done, so I can start the process. It'll be approximately $1,200, so I need board approval to start the process.
Move to authorize Superintendent of Highway to have it, geotech for the new salt barn.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Oh.
This geotechnical survey or whatever it is you're doing is all part of the
Yes,
salt
it's already
shed?
part of my
So it's
cost.
part of the cost of the salt?
It's already been approved, it's
Say that
just
for
one
me.
piece of it, so that I can start the foundation and the block.
Got it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then one question about the paver, since Al's not here, did you want to address that? Or you want me to address it now, and, or you have it?
We have the agreement here someplace.
Okay, I don't have a copy of it with me, so. Al's not here, Al was gonna address it, so.
Well, we can ask Ryan, did you get a chance to look over the agreement on the paver? The memorandum of agreement between Town of Wheatfield, Town of Lewiston, Town of Niagara, and Town of Porter?
So I reviewed an earlier version of it, I believe. I brought up some concerns I had with it. The new one,
Bob, would you hand the mic down to Ryan?
the new one addresses a couple of the concerns. I just have certain concerns about who's gonna hold title to the property, what if someone wants to sell their part interest in the property, is there a right of first refusal from the other municipalities, is there a set price? I mean, who decides who gets the paver at what times during the year? Is there a set number of days each municipality gets it? I mean, I think it's a great idea, especially when we're talking about shared services. It's a way for the town to save money and to satisfy the state and the county with our shared services requirements, but I think that there's some ambiguities in the agreement as written that could lead to issues down the road. I mean, I'm sure Dave and the other.
The issue is, we're not reinventing the wheel, we've already been doing this, we do it with a sweeper, we have no problem. No other town can pave without them. So we kind of hold the ball. The other thing is, Wheatfield and us are the only two that can even move the paper. So we haven't had an issue with this. Who's gonna store it? Wheatfield's gonna store it. My mechanic and Wheatfield's mechanic are gonna be the two mechanics on the job. We're gonna run it, they're gonna sit through and go through with CAD.
So are
Already
the,
agreed through.
are the other towns gonna pay for our mechanic time?
Yes, we pay for everything.
Okay.
It's a shared services, we split everything. And we're gonna do cost. If I do 3 miles, I pay 3 times what the guy that does 1 mile does. When it comes to maintenance.
But do you have an issue putting that into the agreement, or does this need to be acted on tonight?
Well, it's more or less, if I would've known about this, I met with them all today. At noon I had lunch with them, I wasn't aware there was any questions on this.
Yeah, when I received the agenda with the packet, was the first time I saw the new agreement, and I hadn't heard anything after my response to the older
So, we
agreement.
haven't had any issues with it or anything else. But if there's an issue you wanna draw up, write it up, and I'll get it to them.
Dave, don't we have already a blanket agreement for shared services
Yes,
for
we do.
equipment? And it basically covers some of the
Yes,
things
it
that
does.
right,
Who does it get titled to, Dave? Does it, the four?
The
Does it
four.
get four? And who buys the insurance on it in case it burns
Whoever
or?
buys it, we all split it.
The agreement as it's written right now is each town maintains their own liability insurance with regard to this piece of equipment. Do you know who drafted it? Was it Wheatfield's attorney?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, if you want to give it 2 weeks, I'll contact Wheatfield's attorney, we can talk about it and act on it at the next meeting.
As long as it's gonna get acted on in the next 2 weeks, I'm okay with that. But this has been going on, so, all right.
Okay, thanks, Dave, for your patience. And Dan Zano from the Water Department. Anything? No. Okay. And I saw Mike Dashno here earlier, that he's on the,
it's on my agenda.
okay. Okay, that'll end the department head statements.
Can I say something?
Okay, I thought you were under, I thought you had your own, I thought you were clerk correspondence, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Works correspondence is for what residents want to say to you.
Okay. Donna, anything?
I do. I just want to inform the town board that the town has received the 2018 agreement with the Erie County SPCA to take care of the dogs regarding our shelter and stuff like that. I have already forwarded a copy to Parisi. So at the December 11th meeting, hopefully you guys, I'll forward it all to you, and then he can advise you, and we can move forward with it. They want it signed by the end of December to move forward.
Okay, on that note,
Okay.
we have some other issues in regards to the new dog shelter. All right, and the clock is ticking on this. We have to know what the specs are through SPCA. We have to have an agreement with the town of Porter, who's going to have the shelter, who's going to maintain it, back and forth. And it all has to get to our grant writer to be able to put it in the grant so the grant can be filed. And the clock is ticking. Bob?
I understand that, but this is something
Right,
totally
right,
separate.
right, right,
Yeah,
just-
yeah. Yeah, I understand that about the dog shelter. We're gonna work with Bernie. I mean, it has been going on for quite some time, but now that we have an opportunity to get a grant, we need to sit down and
Will it be you?
the shelter has to follow what Ag and Market says.
Right, okay. Well, will that be you, Bob, and Bernie, and somebody from the town of Porter working this out? And where will it be located? Town of Lewiston, town of Porter?
Town of Lewiston in the backyard here.
Has town of Porter agreed to that? If we're gonna do shared services with one shelter?
To be honest with you, I haven't even gotten that far. I'm just trying to figure out how it's gonna get built. I mean,
Bernie,
it's-
do you have any input on that as far as Porter? You've talked to Porter. Are they willing to let us have it here?
Yeah, they have no problem with having it here. They're all set with that. I think what we need to hash out is like, what the payment's gonna be. There's a 50% matching share on this. That means that we would have to negotiate who's gonna be paying for what, like, are we gonna go 50-50 on the 50% match? That's some of the things that we're gonna have to discuss. And then also just the size of the kennel itself, since now we're gonna be doubling the community. Is it 3 kennels, is it 4 kennels, or is it 5? We've gotta follow some sort of specifications on that. So there's a lot of information we still gotta gather, but until we find out exactly what we wanna do, we gotta come up with a budget.
And Don, I don't think it'll change the size of the building, because we already have an agreement that we take their dogs anyway, so we were already considering that. Okay, okay.
But they may have more room in Porter for it too than we do. I have no idea.
Yeah, but Dave is the dog control officer
Right.
for them, so we
Yeah,
can't,
right.
yeah.
That
And
makes sense.
I don't really wanna go to town of Porter myself.
It's lovely though, right? Don't,
It
it is
Nothing
lovely.
wrong with town of Porter, but,
Okay.
on Thanksgiving morning, when they call you at 2:30,
Yeah.
they got a beagle that, didn't chase fast enough after the turkey, you didn't get to go home with them. And on another note,
I did advertise for boards and commission applications. There's a stack of them back there if anybody's interested in filling them out. And then there's also, you can get the copy of the application online. So I encourage people to apply for boards and commissions, and then they're appointed.
We have a few vacancies and we have some terms that are expiring.
Yes,
Okay.
that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. I need an approval of the meeting minutes for the public hearing, 2018 preliminary budget on 10/30/2017.
Move for approval as printed.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Audit payment. Councilwoman Soretto.
I move to approve the regular abstract of claims numbered 3326 to 3434 and recommend payment in the amount of $903,341.20 plus a post audit of $5,457.20.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Under old business?
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Yes.
45 minutes.
Will that be her last audit?
No, she gets to do December too.
Oh, okay.
She did mine.
Oh, okay. Under old business, there'll be no action and be tabled on the Lewiston number 1.
May I ask that we simply remove it and say we're going to take it off the agenda completely, and because we're thinking about going in a different direction, and if we do have to come back to it, we'll start from zero.
Okay. So we're gonna, right now, there's gonna be no action taken and it has to be removed from the agenda. Also, the Niagara University rezoning, Ryan?
Still waiting out our time periods on that. We can act on it at the 11th, or on the 11th.
Okay. And we talked about the dog shelter, the town moving ahead with the grant. I think we're all set there. Cold War veterans exemption.
With all the other stuff I was doing, I did not get an opportunity. Again, that's a local law that we're going to have to draft and put into place. The town board indicated they do want me to move forward with that.
Yeah.
I believe I heard in the meantime that Newport is not going to be providing that
That's what I was
exemption.
told.
I don't know if that changes the town board's mind at all.
No, the county participates already. So the county taxes we're already on the exemption. So the fact that we didn't have a town tax before and we need to create a little, I'm just gonna say I'm in favor of it. The Cold War
I'm in
exemption.
favor of it, but have we heard from the Town Association of Towns on this yet?
We haven't addressed it with the Association of Towns.
I think something maybe we should, to see what their opinion is on it, because as we all know, within our statements of finances, we now have to be able to state how much exemptions are for the STAR program and veterans and everything else. This is one more to add to that. You want to go ahead with it, or do you want to wait?
Well, I think Ryan says he's got some more homework to do on it, and that could be the Association of Towns as well. So, but moving forward, I for one, would support it. The county, a big chunk of the tax for the county, they've already do it. Unfortunately, Newport decided not to do it.
And what I was going to say is this is something that was put into place in the 90s. The reason why we don't even have the local law in place at this point is because we never had a town tax to do an exemption with in the first place. So this is new for us.
Right. Okay. The bid on the fire hydrant. Still no word from NIPA. Waiting on NIPA for that. The site plan application, East Corner Riverwalk Drive and Wolf Run. I believe there's no action to be taken on that, correct?
No action. I spoke with the developer today. There is some additional information he is going to provide me and the town with regard to that application, so no action tonight.
Okay. And then under the site plan application for LMK Realty at Legacy Drive. Bill, you had some questions?
Well, I had some questions. Mr. Massaro, do you have a schematic of the whole project that you can put up on the easel?
Yes.
Maybe one of your associates can be responsible for it? Yes.
Is there an easel?
We have the easel right behind the chief. I don't know if you could just sit right there. Mr. Massaro, first of all, would you define or give us your definition of patio homes? Because it seems to be conspicuously different than other projects.
Yes. Patio home, as we're defining it, is a one-story structure. And what we've done to basically, we've combined two homes in a single construction plot. They've been called duplexes, we call them patio homes. There are 15 separate buildings comprising 2 taxable properties in each for a total of 30. So what we have now is we have an R1 development with 21 lots zoned for R1. We've asked for a zoning change to R2 to allow for the construction of these patio homes. And they're actually offset. If you look at the plan view on the overall site plan, you can see that they're slightly set back. Yes, it's the drawing behind that drawing. Pull that out.
That's what I wanted to see.
Okay, what this shows here, you can see this is the R1 development that's on the east side of it, okay, along Scoville Drive. The homes, actually backyard to backyard. When we were with the planning board, there was discussion about buffering the area between the backyards of the planned development for the R2 and the backyards of the R1 as they face Scoville Drive. There's existing trees that are present, and we also noted that we would provide additional buffering as necessary with planted trees and planted landscaping to close that off. That seemed to satisfy the residents from Scoville Drive that did come out to speak on the project, and essentially that's what it is. But you can see we have 15 different duplex homes here, type A and type B. The A and Bs are the 2-bedroom and the 3-bedroom homes. They are slightly offset to give them an architectural look, and they would be different from the surrounding coach houses at Ridgeview, which are on the other side of North Ridge Drive, which are primarily stucco. They were built in 1998, 1999. The apartments behind there at Ridgeview is an LMK development property. That also is multifamily. So the progression of density proceeds from the 24-unit apartment buildings, which are located approximately here. There are 5 8-unit condominium buildings comprising 40 taxable properties currently on the tax roll for the town. So you go from 24-unit buildings to 8-unit buildings to 2-unit buildings to R1 single family. So the progression is from west to east, most dense to least dense. And that's why we basically wanted to go from the PUD that currently exists into an R2 to border the R1. Similar to what you have over on Washington Street up the road on Creek Road.
Would you briefly tell the difference between what would happen in an R1 lot house that you could build right now by simply getting a building permit versus what you're expecting or anticipating would be the type of home for the patio home?
From a marketing standpoint, I believe it may be difficult to market on
No, I would just.
the difference.
It's a house.
Well, the house could be anything. The house could be 2 stories. The house could be a swimming pool. You could have boats out there. What we have proposed here is to create a homeowners association similar to what already exists at the coach houses, similar to what exists at the legacy condominiums that are presently under construction on Legacy Drive, with strict guidelines limiting what can be parked there, what can be set there, uniformity of all of the various areas to keep it as a smaller planned unit development, to use that language, but actually it's R2. So you would have much more uniformity, but with a different and distinct look, which is what we wanted to accomplish there. Because we wanted the people that lived across the street from it, who, by the way, pull into their garages and their porches face the apartments on the other side. So they're looking at multifamily homes when they're sitting out on their back porch. The only time that they would see this is when they pull into their driveways.
I can recall so many years back when the coach houses were being proposed, and the people on Scoville Drive had issues with having apartment houses in their backyard. And what the compromise was that there was a road, and the apartment houses would be on one side of the road, and there would be something else on the other side of the road backing up to the residence in Scoville Drive.
Right.
Is that my correct recollection?
That was before my time, but I recall
Oh, thanks,
that.
no.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
It's a little bit before, anyway.
Right.
But back to your discussion.
All right, how big is the lot?
The lots are approximately, what, 75 by 165?
Yeah, as they stand now, there's 21 separate parcels that some fall under the required frontage to be a lot, but what he's proposing would reduce the amount of lots from 21 to
So
15.
with your proposal, there would be 2 units on one lot. The lots would be 75 feet wide,
Minimum.
right? How deep again?
They range anywhere from, I believe, 120. We got it over here.
160, 160, they're 160 throughout, and the deepest ones are 255 feet on the
Which is basically a little bit larger than a normal
Right.
building lot.
Right.
And again, you could come in tomorrow, ask for building permits to build single-family houses, traditional, regular 2-story house or 1-story, whatever the people want. And those people would own the whole lot, and be able to do whatever they wanted to do on it, within the bounds of our
Subject
law.
to Mr. Masters' approval, I
Yes,
could.
yes, yes.
And you wouldn't have to put a buffer zone in a single.
Wouldn't have to do anything.
Right.
I could just do that tomorrow. Okay, but the problem is that as I see it, and as I've been advised by our marketing people from Great Lakes, and based upon the demand that we have been receiving on the condominiums that we've been selling, is that these areas here, these type of homes are much more marketable than a single-family R1 development. I mean, if you were a young person, would you basically want to buy a single-family home facing a multifamily development? This is more of a transition area. This is actually a better transition than what you've already approved that exists over on Washington Street up on Creek Road. Okay, presently, you've got a PUD with an R2, and the R2 fourplexes or eightplexes, whatever they are, face directly to the frontages of those homes. These areas here are backyard to backyard, and there's sufficient area back there. As a matter of fact, during the planning process, during the planning board review process, not one of the people along Scoville Drive came out and objected to the property and objected to the development on the merits of the development. They did question traffic, okay, which we addressed, and we basically told them that my interpretation of the traffic flow would be that the majority of the traffic here would exit from Northridge Drive up to 104 into the village, or proceed from Northridge Drive to Legacy up Creek Road, if they wanted to go east towards Lockport. And they pretty much accepted that. No one spoke against it. They were concerned more about the buffering in their backyard. We addressed the planning board's questions and concerns about that. This was a supplemental and a secondary plan that we came back for a second review on the several months that we were in front of the planning board.
One more question. Would the people be allowed to build a shed-type building in the backyard?
Yes, if this is approved, no.
Okay. So my recollection back when it was originally proposed, the people at Scoville Drive did not want apartment houses in their backyard.
And they're not getting that now.
They're not getting that. Whether this is spot zoning or modifying the zoning, to me, this transition development is ideal. It seems just to be logical.
Thank you.
I don't like to go against the planning board. I've read what the planning board's position was. By majority vote, they chose not to push this ahead, but it wasn't unanimous and it wasn't by consensus. So there probably was some good dialogue going back and forth. I talked to our attorney today, whether or not we as a board can move this forward and have a public hearing, and then decide after we have a public hearing whether or not we want to continue it. And that, I would be in favor of that. So we would have to instruct the attorneys to write a law, local law, changing the zoning, have a public hearing, and then decide if we want to continue to go forward. This seems to address the issues of the people that are on Scoville Drive how many years back, before your time, but not mine, thanks now. All right,
Well, Mr. Massaro,
No,
let me ask,
I stand corrected, I was around back then.
I think you were in my 8th grade class.
Mr. Massaro, let me ask you one more time now. If you went to the R1, you could put 20 homes up there?
21.
21 homes.
Yep.
And then if you're going with the R2, it would be 15 basically homes?
Well, I'm talking about
Buildings.
there'd be 15 buildings, 30
30
taxable
homes.
properties for the town. Right now with the R1, there are 21 taxable properties.
So it'd be 9 more,
There would be
9
9
more
more
homes, basically, but
Correct.
condensed buildings, right?
Let me ask you this, so this, you would not be able to park your boat in the driveway,
Correct.
but if it was a house, you could.
Temporary.
If there were houses, you could for the
It's my
summer.
understanding that that's correct.
You could
With the
put-
homeowners association that we have now, and with all of the provisions of the offering plans that we have, all of those various items that you spoke about are limited, okay, and are specifically prohibited or allowed. Okay, for the most part, they're prohibited. You don't see any of that existing right now over at Legacy, and you don't see any of that existing right now with the coach houses. Coach houses have been there for almost 20 years. Next year, they'll be there 20 years. And it's been a fine development for the town.
And you're putting sidewalks in also?
We've agreed to do that. The planning board, we discussed that with the planning board, and they basically, in addressing some of the residents that got up and spoke, they said that they would prefer to have sidewalks there, which we agree to do, because essentially what you're doing is you have people walking on Northridge Drive.
Right.
Right.
So essentially, they would take people off of the street, put them on sidewalks, and it's a perfect situation, because the sidewalks would basically would go along the eastern end of Northridge Drive and connect to the existing sidewalk structure that we're already putting in at Legacy. So you'd have all of this, you could have a complete walk all the way to the edge of Creek Road if you wanted to make that walk or ride your bike. And then essentially, this would go up the hill. We can eventually connect that up to 104. There's already sidewalks existing up there to walk right into the village. Any more questions?
I think they've answered my questions very well. I read what Mr. Conrad said, the emails are going back and forth, and Zach Cassell, and when I look at the subdivision that's above the hill, it's a mixed type of units, and this again is a mixed type of units, but it's a transition from more dense to medium dense to light dense to single family housing. I'm willing to move ahead with it, the rest of the board is willing to go along with me.
So,
I told Councilman Morel that I won't go out on the limb alone. He's got to come out with me.
Well, we're going to hold a public hearing on this.
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
only in that case.
Ryan, just to touch base, what is the next step if we move forward on this?
First of all, I wouldn't act on the plan
Right,
itself
no.
tonight because
Right,
it's kind of putting the cart before the horse in terms of you would need a rezone in order to move forward with that plan. So the path moving forward is a local law needs to be drafted. It'll be introduced by the town board. We will set a public hearing. This needs to go to the county planning board if it has not yet. That's a statement, but has it gone to the county planning board yet?
Yes.
It did?
They approved it already.
In terms of the project, or they reviewed it in terms of rezoning the property? Because
Both.
if we rezone a property, we need to send it
Well,
to,
they knew what, I had to bring that approval, correct me if I'm wrong, please. I had to bring that approval to the planning board prior to the Lewiston planning board looking at that. I made a presentation to the Niagara County Planning Board on this project, and the town has received written approval that they've approved it unanimously based upon the rezoning from R1 to R2, and they also looked at the same conceptual drawing and renderings that you've looked at, and they've approved those.
I would just have to look at what their approval was, if it was
The town has it.
the plan, and I'll get it from the town, if it was the plan, or if it was the rezone, or if it was both, because that's important. Under New York state law and our town code, we need to send any application for a rezone to the county planning board.
That's what we sent it there for.
Okay,
Specifically for the rezone.
okay, not for the plan itself.
Both went, but they're specifically for the rezone. Right.
Okay, then we need to a local law needs to be drafted, it needs to be introduced, we need to send out possibly seeker and lead agency letters to interested parties, have a public hearing, and then we can move on it after that. We have longer time periods on a zoning law as opposed to just a regular local law in terms of how long the town board has to have it in their possession before they can act on it, so,
So the ball's in your court.
yeah.
Okay.
It should be in A. Joseph's court, but for this particular case, I would appreciate if you assigned it to Mr. Parisi.
That's correct. Mr. Catalano has been handling it up until this point, although I'm familiar with kind of what's been going on. I can take the lead on it now if that's the town board's wishes.
Do we have to have a motion tonight to
No.
direct you to do this?
No.
Just gonna move ahead with it.
I'll just start drafting local law.
Oh, a voice from the.
Sorry, just for
Charles
Charles Frico, Barnes, Jennings King, attorney for LMK. Just want to, on the procedural issue, that the town code provides that you have to hold a public hearing on any rezoning application, which was submitted back in August. And that public hearing needs to be held within 62 days of the planning board's recommendation. So that clock is already ticking. So frankly, I do think the board should, well, depending on how you schedule your public hearings, but that public hearing should be authorized sooner rather than later, because as I said, that clock is ticking for that public hearing to happen.
Your concern was we need to adapt or adopt a local law before we can schedule the public hearing, correct?
We don't need to adopt the local law before you schedule the public hearing, but the public hearing timing is going to be affected by whether or not the town needs to send out those lead agency letters in terms of seeker. There's a 30-day waiting period where other municipalities, if this falls under that part of the seeker law, where they have to respond to let their feelings known regarding lead agency status.
There's only one involved agency in this action, and that is this board. So there is no requirement, there's no need to coordinate review here. There's no other, they don't need any variances. There is no, right? I mean, there's no variances required for this project. So there are no other involved agencies. There may be interested agencies, but though that is not a requirement, they can comment just like any member of the public can comment. But this is the only involved agency. So therefore, there's nothing preventing this board from scheduling a public hearing and holding that public hearing. But I do agree with the town attorney that in order to then vote on it, there needs to be a proposed local law changing that zoning.
Okay. October 19th was the date the planning board meeting was when they reviewed a zone request. So that's basically a little over a month now, and you said it's 60 days?
62 days is what your zoning code provides for in terms of when that public hearing is.
We can have by mutual agreement extend.
It can be. All I wanted to make the point is there's no reason to wait.
Well, the only reason for this board is that the planning board made a different recommendation, and we're going out on, we're sticking our necks out a little bit here. And I want to make sure.
I think
we
he's
don't
referring
rush
to the
it.
public hearing. I think he's referring to the public
Right,
hearing.
I am not asking you to tack on the,
Right.
because I agree with the town attorney that you can't do that because there hasn't been a public hearing. There does have to be a local law, and the local law has to have a public hearing before you can act. So all I'm suggesting and asking the town board is that to schedule the public hearing at your earliest convenience, because there's been a referral to the county has made its recommendation, the secret EAF form has been submitted, the planning board rendered its recommendation, although I should point out that that recommendation was not timely. According to your zoning code, that was due 60 days after the application was submitted, and it was not rendered in that time period. What your zoning code says is the failure to do that in 60 days, that it's deemed a recommended approval. So frankly, you are not in the situation where you have to overrule the planning board on that because their recommendation was not issued within the 60 days that the code requires. However, we are perfectly willing to address those concerns that the planning board raised on the merits. Here today or at the public hearing.
Let us say we schedule a public hearing. What would be the purpose of the public hearing?
To hear the public and to hear the applicant on the application.
On the application, period. Not that we've approved it or we've rejected it, just to hear the public's opinion. I have no problem with that. but you can't have, can you have a public hearing on something that's that vague?
As I said, your code requires you to have to hold a public hearing for any application for rezoning. That application's been submitted, all of the procedural steps, except for that public hearing, and then your ultimate vote have already occurred. That's all I'm saying. That's the next step. The next step in this process is for this board to hold a public hearing and then to make its determination.
It is the next step in the process. The only thing I will say is I believe under our code as well, the failure of the town board to act within a certain time period after it comes from the planning board is an automatic denial. So we can extend these time limits by mutual consent, and I would assume they wouldn't have a problem extending that time period,
Right.
considering it's an automatic denial if they don't.
Yeah, no, I mean, and my client is perfectly willing, as they have been going through this process in good faith, and they feel very strongly that the merits of this project warrant an approval, so they're obviously willing to work with the town. All I'm saying is there's no reason at this point to wait for any further to schedule that public hearing, because that is the next step in the process.
We can schedule it. I would do it for not the next meeting, but the meeting after that, so that we can meet our notice requirements.
Supervisor's not here for that last meeting in December.
Last meeting in December, I won't be here. I mean,
And then-
we obviously we could schedule it. I mean, just be known, I will not be here. And, Mr. Jacoby, would you be here on that meeting? Okay, because obviously when it goes to a vote, it's gonna be after January 1. Well, Councilwoman Serrata will be retired. And, so I would definitely want Mr. Jacoby at that meeting, because if I'm not there, he's not there, that would, I don't like that. So, I mean, as long as we have 4 board members here.
I'm willing to move to schedule a public hearing, but the phrase is what has me insecure, because I thought it was a public hearing to approve this project. It's just a public hearing to.
It allows the public to let their
input
on the plan itself.
I move to schedule a public hearing for.
And just, don't mean to interrupt, but my client is just fine, they're fine, whatever you think makes the most sense, as long as it does, you don't want just to kick the can down the road when.
I'd like to be here.
Right.
I mean,
January is fine.
So January
Okay.
is fine, if that is the board's preference, that's absolutely fine.
Okay.
Our attorney can.
And gives your attorney more time
Research,
to.
we'll schedule it, do that on the 11th.
Yeah.
Right, I'm more comfortable with that.
Does our clerk have some
Well,
input?
I guess I just have a question as to, you're gonna hold a public hearing to have the public speak on this project that hasn't even gone through the process of a local law to allow it to even happen. So your local law should be your first public hearing on the local law.
I'm sorry, respectfully, you can't adopt a local law without a public hearing. That's the way the
Right,
process
but
works.
he hasn't even prepared the local law, which has to be presented to the
Right.
town board
But-
in their hands 7 to 10 days prior to even calling for a public hearing.
I'll know before they can adopt it.
But we have enough time now. I think we're covered now. Since we're gonna wait and there's no time for limits.
I'm not sure we're having a public hearing or a public information meeting. Because if it's without the document, to me, it's a public information.
On the local law.
Yeah, so,
Public hearing is on the local law, that's why you're holding the public hearing, not on the approval of the plan.
right,
Right.
So the public hearing on the rezone.
which we have to have something in front of us.
But, and
December 11th.
it's January.
December 11th, we'll schedule it December 11th
And then have it in January.
with the local law in hand.
Is that
Yeah, I
okay?
mean, I know it is actually on the local law itself. It's difficult in this situation to separate the local law from the plan itself. And I'm
Right.
sure you're gonna receive many comments based on the plan itself as opposed to the local law to rezone it, because the plan can't go forward unless it is rezoned. So I think that's where the confusion is.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Mr. Nusaro.